The chasm of meaninglessness yawns wide in the modern world, doesn't it? You feel it. That gnawing emptiness, that sterile echo in the halls of progress, that quiet desperation behind the curated smiles and endless distractions. You're told to consume, to achieve, to fit in, yet the soul starves. You look out at a world brimming with information but famished for wisdom, a world that offers 1,000 paths to fleeting pleasure but no map to enduring purpose. And you ask, is this all there is? If that question burns within you, if the hollowness of a life devoid of deep, personal significance has become intolerable, then you are ready for the wisdom of Carl Jung on finding meaning in a seemingly meaningless world. This isn't about easy answers or comforting platitudes. This is about a journey into the rugged, untamed landscape of your own psyche, for it is there, and only there, that true meaning can be unearthed and forged. The search for meaning isn't a luxury, it's a fundamental human imperative. When it's absent, we see the symptoms everywhere: anxiety, depression, addiction, a pervasive sense of alienation. Jung understood this profoundly. He saw the modern individual adrift, cut off from the vitalizing springs of the inner life, from the myths and symbols that once nourished the human spirit. He recognized that the grand narratives of religion and tradition, which for centuries provided a framework of meaning, had crumbled for many, leaving behind a spiritual vacuum. And into this vacuum rushed the superficialities, the ideologies, the frantic pursuits that ultimately fail to satisfy the soul's deepest longing. The brutal truth is this: the world will seem meaningless if you expect meaning to be handed to you on a silver platter, or if you seek it exclusively in the external. The noise of the collective, the demands of the superficial, the allure of the easily consumable, these are the sirens luring you away from the only place meaning can genuinely take root, within yourself. Jung's entire body of work is a testament to this radical idea. Meaning is not an external commodity to be acquired, but an internal experience to be cultivated, an inner reality to be discovered and brought into being. So let's descend. Let's explore Jung's map for navigating this often barren terrain and discover how to light a fire of meaning so potent it can illuminate even the darkest corners of existence. First, we must confront the modern malady head-on, the pervasive ache for meaning in a world that often seems to mock such a quest. Jung saw this as a direct consequence of our alienation from the unconscious, that vast, mysterious part of our psyche. We live in an age that glorifies the rational, the measurable, the material. Science has demystified the cosmos, technology has promised utopia, and yet an epidemic of soullessness spreads. Why? Because we've been taught to look outward for all our answers, to value the intellect above all else, and to distrust, if not outright dismiss, the non-rational, symbolic language of the inner world. The old gods, as Jung might say, have died, or at least our connection to them has withered. The rituals, myths, and communal spiritual practices that once provided a container for the great questions of life, who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of it all? Have lost their power for many. In their place, we have the cult of productivity, the worship of celebrity, the relentless pursuit of fleeting digital validation. We've traded the sacred for the superficial, the eternal for the ephemeral. And the cost is a profound sense of disorientation and futility. The brutal truth Jung forces us to confront is that you cannot delegate your search for meaning. No guru, no institution, no ideology, no relationship, no amount of external achievement can fill that void for you. These things might offer temporary distraction or a borrowed sense of purpose, but authentic meaning, the kind that anchors you in the storms of life, must be a personal discovery, a personal creation. To rely on anything else is to build your house on sand. You are entirely responsible for the meaning or lack thereof in your life. That's a terrifying thought for some, but it's also profoundly liberating. It means the power to change, to find, to create meaning rests squarely with you. This isn't to say the external world plays no part, but its role is secondary. It is the raw material, the stage upon which your inner drama of meaning unfolds. The primary source, the wellspring, lies within. This brings us to Jung's revolutionary concept of the unconscious, not merely as a repository of repressed desires and traumas, as Freud largely saw it, but as a dynamic, creative, and intelligent realm, a source of profound wisdom and guidance. For Jung, the unconscious is not just personal. It also has a collective layer, the collective unconscious, which is a reservoir of human experience, of archetypal patterns and images that have shaped our understanding of life across cultures and epochs. This is the buried treasure. Imagine your conscious mind, your ego, as a small island in the vast ocean of the unconscious. Modern society encourages us to develop this island, to fortify its defenses, to meticulously cultivate its surface. But Jung urges us to become explorers of the ocean itself, for within its depths lie the forgotten parts of ourselves, the unlived potentials, the answers to the questions that plague our conscious minds. The unconscious speaks to us not in the direct language of logic, but in the symbolic language of dreams, fantasies, synchronistic events, and even in the symptoms of our neuroses. Dreams, for Jung, were not just random firings of neurons or wish fulfillments. They are vital messages from the unconscious, offering insights, warnings, and guidance. They reveal the hidden dynamics of our psyche, the conflicts we ignore, the aspects of ourselves we've neglected. To dismiss your dreams is to hang up the phone on a caller who holds crucial information for your journey. Synchronicity, another key Jungian concept, refers to meaningful coincidences, events in the outer world that seem to align meaningfully with your inner state, with no apparent causal connection. These aren't just quirks of fate, they are indications that the inner and outer worlds are not as separate as we believe, that there is an underlying order, a pattern trying to emerge. Paying attention to these moments can open up new perspectives and affirm that you are part of a larger, meaningful tapestry. The brutal truth here is that to ignore your inner world, to live solely on the surface of your conscious awareness, is a form of self-amputation. You are cutting yourself off from the deepest, richest, and most vitalizing part of your being. You are, in effect, choosing to live half a life impoverished by its lack of depth and connection to the primal source of your own psychic energy. This isn't weakness, it's a tragically common form of modern blindness. So the first actionable step derived from Jung is deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. Start paying attention to your inner world. Keep a dream journal. Write down your dreams immediately upon waking before the rational mind dismisses or distorts them. Don't worry about interpretation at first, just record them. Notice the symbols, the feelings, the narratives. Over time, patterns will emerge. Similarly, start noticing synchronicities. When an uncanny coincidence occurs, don't just brush it off. Reflect on it. What was happening in your life, in your thoughts at that moment? What might it be pointing towards? This practice alone begins to bridge the gap between your conscious mind and the vast intelligence of the unconscious. Now, if we are to truly delve into the unconscious in search of meaning, we must inevitably confront what Jung called the shadow. This is perhaps one of his most crucial and most challenging contributions. The shadow represents all the parts of ourselves that we have rejected, repressed, disowned, and deemed unacceptable. It's the sum of all those qualities we'd rather not admit to possessing: our anger, our envy, our greed, our fears, our insecurities, our primitive instincts, our undeveloped potentials that we were shamed out of. It is, in essence, our personal dark side. Most people spend their lives running from their shadow or projecting it onto others. Projection is a key mechanism here. When we refuse to acknowledge a certain trait within ourselves, we unconsciously attribute it to people or groups in the outside world. The things that infuriate you most in others, the judgments you cast most vehemently, these are often neon signs pointing directly to disowned aspects of your own shadow. That political figure you despise, that annoying colleague, that type of person you can't stand, they may well be carrying pieces of your unacknowledged self. Confronting the shadow is terrifying because it means admitting to the very things we've built our identities on not being. It means looking unflinchingly at our own capacity for negativity, for destructiveness, for pettiness. It requires radical self-honesty, a willingness to strip away the carefully constructed persona, the mask we present to the world, and see what lies beneath. But here's the paradox and the profound insight from Jung. The shadow, despite its darkness, is also a source of immense power, creativity, and vitality. Those rejected parts of ourselves hold locked-up energy. When we disown our anger, we also disown our capacity for righteous assertion. When we disown our aggression, we may also cripple our drive and ambition. When we repress our vulnerability, we cut ourselves off from true intimacy and compassion. The gold, as the alchemists knew, is often found in the darkest, most despised matter. The brutal truth is this: you cannot achieve wholeness, you cannot find authentic, deeply rooted meaning until you begin the process of integrating your shadow. To live a life of meaning is to live an authentic life, and authenticity demands that you embrace all of yourself, not just the pretty, socially acceptable parts. Avoiding your shadow doesn't make it go away. It just allows it to operate unconsciously, sabotaging your efforts, poisoning your relationships, and driving compulsive behaviors. The unacknowledged shadow is what makes good people do bad things, what fuels hypocrisy, and what keeps us trapped in cycles of self-deception. The path to integrating the shadow is not about eliminating it or conquering it in a battle. It's about becoming aware of it, acknowledging it, withdrawing our projections, and finding constructive ways to express its energy. It's about understanding that these dark qualities often have a positive side, a hidden strength, if they can be brought into consciousness and balanced. Your ruthlessness, if owned and tempered with empathy, can become decisive leadership. Your critical nature, if turned inward constructively, can become keen discernment. The actionable step here is to cultivate ruthless self-observation and honesty. Ask yourself, what qualities in others provoke the strongest negative reactions in me? What am I most ashamed of in myself? What parts of myself do I try to hide even from myself? What feedback have I consistently received from others that I've dismissed? Journal about these things. Sit with the discomfort. This is not about self-flagellation, it's about self-reclamation. It's about taking back the lost pieces of your soul. This confrontation is the bedrock of building the mental toughness required to navigate a world that often seems devoid of inherent meaning, because you are building your meaning from the totality of your being, not a curated, fragile facade. This difficult but essential work of shadow integration is a core component of what Jung termed individuation. This is arguably the central concept in his psychology and his answer to the question of a meaningful life. Individuation is the lifelong, innate process by which a person becomes a distinct, indivisible unity or whole, becoming who one truly is, fulfilling one's unique psychic potential. It is the journey towards self-realization. Individuation is not about becoming special in an egoic, narcissistic sense. It's not about standing out for the sake of standing out. Rather, it's about differentiating oneself from the collective consciousness, from the unthinking conformity of the masses, and developing a conscious relationship with one's own inner center, what Jung called the self, the archetype of wholeness that encompasses both the conscious and the unconscious. The self is the organizing principle of the psyche, the inner compass guiding us towards becoming complete. Think of an acorn. Within it lies the potential to become a mighty oak tree. It doesn't strive to become a pine or a willow. Its purpose is to realize its oakness. Similarly, each of us has a unique psychic blueprint, a unique potential to unfold. Individuation is the process of consciously cooperating with this innate drive towards wholeness. It means stripping away the false selves, the personas adopted to please others or to fit in, and courageously embracing the authentic self with all its complexities, contradictions, and unique gifts. The brutal truth about individuation is that it is often a lonely and difficult path. It demands immense courage, perseverance, and a willingness to go against the grain. Society, by its very nature, often promotes conformity and discourages radical individuality. To individuate means to question the assumptions of your culture, your family, your peers. It means taking responsibility for your own values, your own beliefs, your own choices, even when they are unpopular or misunderstood. Most people, Jung observed, will shrink from this task, preferring the relative comfort and security of the collective, even if it means sacrificing their authentic selves and a deeper sense of meaning. They choose the well-trodden path of unconsciousness over the arduous climb towards selfhood. To embark on the path of individuation is to say yes to your own unique destiny, even if you don't fully understand what that destiny is at first. It involves listening intently to that still, small voice within, that inner calling that nudges you towards certain experiences, certain people, certain paths, even when they don't make logical sense. It involves making conscious choices that align with your deepest values and your emerging sense of self, rather than choices based on fear, obligation, or the desire for external approval. The actionable steps for fostering individuation are manifold, but they begin with self-reflection and conscious differentiation. Ask yourself, in what ways am I living according to someone else's script? What societal or familial expectations am I unconsciously fulfilling? What are my genuine values, passions, and interests as distinct from those I've adopted? Dare to spend time alone to cultivate solitude, for it is in the quiet spaces away from the noise of the collective that the voice of the self can be heard. Make small choices, then larger ones that honor your authentic feelings and intuitions, even if they create friction. This is not about rebellion for its own sake, but about a steadfast commitment to becoming the person you were meant to be. This journey, fraught as it may be, is inherently meaningful because it is the ultimate expression of your unique existence. As we journey deeper into the psyche in our quest for meaning, Jung introduces us to the realm of archetypes and the collective unconscious. This is where his ideas expand beyond the purely personal into the transpersonal, connecting the individual to the universal patterns of human experience. The collective unconscious, as mentioned, is a shared reservoir of innate psychic predispositions and potentials. inherited from our ancestors and common to all humanity. It manifests through archetypes, primordial images, patterns of behavior, and symbolic figures that recur in myths, legends, religions, dreams, and fantasies across all cultures and all times. Think of archetypes like the hero, the sage, the mother, the father, the child, the trickster, the anima, the feminine aspect in men, and the animus, the masculine aspect in women, and crucially the self, the archetype of wholeness. These are not just intellectual constructs, they are living forces within the psyche that shape our perceptions, motivate our behaviors, and influence our relationships. When you fall deeply in love, the archetype of the anima or animus is often projected onto the beloved. When you face a great challenge, the hero archetype may be activated within you. When you seek wisdom, you are tapping into the sage. Understanding archetypes helps us to see that our personal struggles and experiences are often expressions of these universal human themes. It can provide a sense of connection to something larger than our individual ego, a feeling of participating in the timeless drama of human existence. This recognition can be profoundly meaning-conferring, lifting us out of the isolation of our personal problems and placing them within a broader, more universal context. The brutal truth here is that you are not as unique or original in your fundamental psychological makeup as your ego might like to believe. Many of your deepest fears, desires, conflicts, and aspirations are variations on ancient archetypal themes that have been played out by countless human beings before you. This isn't a cause for despair, but for a kind of liberation. Recognizing the archetypal dimensions of your life gives you a framework for understanding your experiences, for seeing the patterns, and for consciously engaging with these powerful inner forces rather than being unconsciously driven by them. You gain power not by denying these ancient templates, but by understanding how they operate within you and through you. The actionable path here involves familiarizing yourself with archetypal patterns. Study mythology, fairy tales, epic literature, and religious stories from various cultures. These are rich repositories of archetypal wisdom. Pay attention to the recurring characters, symbols, and narratives in your own dreams and fantasies. Which archetypal figures seem to be most active in your life right now? Are you caught in a hero's journey, a descent into the underworld, a quest for the Holy Grail? By identifying the archetypes at play, you can begin to work with them more consciously, harnessing their energy for your individuation process and finding deeper layers of meaning in your personal narrative. For example, if you realize you are unconsciously playing out the martyr archetype, you can begin to question that pattern and seek ways to integrate the strength of the warrior or the self-care of the nurturer. This leads us naturally to the power of personal myth and ritual in creating a meaningful life. Jung believed that modern individuals suffer profoundly from the loss of a living myth, a guiding narrative that provides a sense of purpose, identity, and orientation in the world, and the decline of meaningful rituals that connect us to the sacred or numinous dimensions of existence. In traditional societies, collective myths and rituals provided this framework. In our secular, rationalized world, many find themselves adrift in a disenchanted reality. Jung's answer was not necessarily to return to old dogmatic religious forms, but for each individual to discover or create their own personal myth. This is not a falsehood or an illusion, but rather a unique, personally resonant narrative that helps you make sense of your life, your experiences, your values, and your ultimate concerns. It's the story you live by, the story that gives your life coherence, direction, and significance. It answers the questions: who am I? Where have I come from? Where am I going? What is my purpose? The brutal truth is that if you do not consciously define your own personal myth, One will be imposed upon you by your upbringing, by cultural conditioning, by your unacknowledged complexes, or by the dominant, often soul-crushing, narratives of consumerism, materialism, or nihilism. And these imposed myths are rarely empowering or authentically aligned with your deepest self. They are often, frankly, shitty, leading to a life of quiet desperation or frantic, meaningless activity. To live without a consciously cultivated personal myth is to be a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the whims of external forces and inner compulsions. Creating or discovering your personal myth is an ongoing, creative act. It involves reflecting on your life story, identifying recurring themes, pivotal moments, core values, and the figures, real or symbolic, that have deeply influenced you. It involves asking yourself what truly matters to you, what you're willing to dedicate your life to, what kind of story you want your life to tell. This narrative becomes your unique compass, guiding your choices and infusing your actions with meaning. Actionable steps include dedicated journaling and reflection on your life's narrative. What are the key chapters? Who are the main characters? What are the central conflicts and quests? What symbols or images hold deep personal significance for you? Consider writing your own mythology or autobiography, not just as a record of events, but as an exploration of the deeper patterns and meanings. Furthermore, Jung emphasized the importance of ritual, personal, meaningful practices that connect you to your inner world and to something larger than yourself. This doesn't have to be elaborate religious ceremony. It could be a daily meditation practice, time spent in nature, creative expression, a way of honoring significant life transitions, or any regular activity that you imbue with symbolic meaning and intention that allows you to step out of the profane, everyday world and into a sacred space, even if only for a few moments. To facilitate this deep dive and the creation of a personal myth, Jung developed a powerful technique called active imagination. This is not mere daydreaming or passive fantasizing. It is a conscious, deliberate method of engaging with the figures and contents of the unconscious in a waking state. It's a way to enter into a dialogue with the parts of yourself that normally only speak through dreams or symptoms. In active imagination, you typically begin by focusing on a dream image, a fantasy, a mood, or a physical sensation. You allow this image or feeling to take on a life of its own, to develop, to personify itself. Then you consciously interact with these emerging figures or elements as if in a play or a dialogue. You can ask them questions, listen to their responses, express your own feelings and perspectives. The key is to engage with them as autonomous realities, without trying to control or censor the process, while still maintaining your conscious, observing ego. This practice allows for a direct encounter with the archetypal forces, the shadow aspects, the complexes, and the guiding intelligence of the unconscious. It can lead to profound insights, the resolution of inner conflicts, the release of blocked energy, and the discovery of new creative potentials. It is a way of actively participating in your own psychic life, rather than being a passive victim of it. The brutal truth about active imagination is that it requires discipline, courage, and a willingness to confront potentially uncomfortable or disturbing material. It's not always pleasant. You might encounter figures that challenge you, frighten you, or reveal unwelcome truths about yourself. It requires a commitment to the process and an ability to suspend disbelief while maintaining a critical awareness. It is far easier to remain on the surface, distracted by external stimuli, than to undertake this often demanding inner work. But the rewards, in terms of self-understanding and access to the sources of meaning, can be immense. If you are serious about exploring this, it's advisable to learn about the technique from reliable Jungian sources or to work with a therapist trained in this method. However, you can begin by simply allowing your spontaneous fantasies to unfold more consciously, writing them down, and reflecting on the dialogues and images that emerge. The aim is to build a bridge to the unconscious, to make it a partner in your quest for meaning. Finally, we must address the inescapable reality of suffering and its role in the Jungian vision of a meaningful life. In our modern, comfort-obsessed culture, suffering is often seen as something to be avoided at all costs, a sign of failure or pathology. Jung, drawing on ancient alchemical wisdom, had a profoundly different perspective. He saw suffering, neurosis, and crisis not merely as problems to be eliminated, but as potential gateways to deeper consciousness and meaning. The pain and darkness are not just obstacles, they are often the very raw material out of which a more profound and meaningful life can be forged. The alchemists of old sought to transform base metals like lead into gold. For Jung, this was a metaphor for the psychological process of transformation. The prima materia, the starting substance for the alchemical work, was often something dark, chaotic, despised, analogous to our psychological suffering, our shadow material, our neuroses. It is precisely by engaging with this base material, by enduring the fire of psychological work, that transformation, the creation of gold, consciousness, wholeness, meaning, becomes possible. A neurosis, from a Jungian perspective, is not just a random affliction. It is often a sign that something in the psyche is out of balance, that an essential part of the self is being neglected or repressed. The symptoms themselves, the anxiety, the depression, the obsessions, can be seen as attempts by the psyche to draw attention to this imbalance, to force us to confront what we have been avoiding. A crisis, a breakdown, can be a breakthrough in disguise, an opportunity to shed old, outmoded ways of being and to discover new, more authentic possibilities. The brutal truth is that true, enduring meaning is rarely found in a life of perpetual ease and comfort. It is often forged in the crucible of adversity, in the willingness to confront pain, to bear tension, and to learn from our wounds. To constantly flee from suffering, to seek an escape from every discomfort, is to refuse the very conditions that often precipitate profound growth and the discovery of deeper purpose. It's in the struggle, in the darkness, that our resilience is built, our character is tempered, and our capacity for meaning is deepened. Avoiding necessary suffering is avoiding life itself in its fullness. The actionable mindset shift here is to reframe your relationship with suffering. When difficulties arise, instead of immediately asking, "How can I get rid of this?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me? What aspect of myself is seeking expression or healing here? What is gestating in this darkness?" This doesn't mean passively accepting all suffering or seeking it out masochistically. It means approaching life's inevitable challenges with a willingness to find the meaning hidden within them, to see them as opportunities for alchemical transformation. It means trusting that even in the darkest night of the soul, a process of profound significance may be unfolding. So, as we draw this exploration to a close, what is the core of Carl Jung's message on finding meaning in a seemingly meaningless world? It is this: meaning is not an external discovery but an internal creation, an achievement of consciousness forged through courageous engagement with the totality of your being, your light and your shadow, your joys and your sorrows, your conscious rationality and the vast, symbolic depths of your unconscious. The world will continue to appear meaningless if you persist in looking for prepackaged answers outside yourself. If you shy away from the demanding inner work required to cultivate a soul. Jung provides not a set of easy dogmas, but a challenging, profound roadmap for this inner journey. He invites you to become an archaeologist of your own psyche, to excavate its hidden treasures, to confront its buried monsters, and ultimately to integrate its disparate parts into a functioning, authentic whole. He tells you that your dreams matter, your shadow matters, your unique individual path matters, the symbols that stir your soul matter, the myths that secretly guide your life matter, and your suffering, when faced with courage and consciousness, can become your greatest teacher, your alchemical fire. The call to action is clear, and it is urgent. Stop waiting for meaning to descend upon you from on high. Stop blaming the world for its apparent emptiness. The power to infuse your life with profound, unshakable meaning resides within you, in your willingness to undertake the heroic journey of individuation. Embrace the discomfort of self-exploration. Dare to confront your shadow. Listen to the whispers of your unconscious. Strive to live your own unique myth, not a second-hand imitation. The path Jung lays out is not for the faint of heart. It demands tenacity, honesty, and an unwavering commitment to your own psychological and spiritual development. But the alternative is a life of quiet desperation, a superficial existence haunted by the ghosts of unlived potential. You are the meaning maker of your own life. The world is a canvas, and your conscious, individuating self is the artist. Pick up the brush. Mix the vibrant colors of your deepest self with the somber hues of your shadow. Paint your own masterpiece. Let the meaning you forge within illuminate the world around you. That is the enduring legacy of Carl Jung, and it is the most vital work you will ever undertake. The seemingly meaningless world transforms when the meaning finder within awakens.